A higher day for the most part on Monday. Mark Schultz, Northstar. Let me try it one more time. 3, 2, and 1. A higher day in most of the grain and livestock futures trade on Monday. Mark Schultz, Northstar Commodity, is joining me. And Mark, felt more risk on Monday, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. And I think like anything in the market, sometimes you overdo it to the upside, you overdo it to the downside. And that's really the way it feels on the market. It started to have a nice little response back on Friday and Thursday and Friday. So it started to make its move then. But today, it just had another strong surge, and basically a strong surge across the board. That's the encouraging part,
Right.
that it wasn't just the grains, the meats were involved in it, the energy complex was involved. Those are all positive things as we go through, and the equity market's also another strong performance.
So do you feel like the jitters about the banking situation and what the Fed's next move may be, do you think some of that risk is out of the market now or not?
Well, I think it eases a little bit. I think the Dow took on the negative news last week. We fought it off better than I would have expected in here. Do I think we're out of the woods yet? I don't know that it's for sure, but I think you watch this on a technical basis. I'd watch the Dow futures. If they start closing above 33,000 short term, that would be an encouraging sign. In here, that would be positive. We saw the dollar back off a little bit, and the other big part of this here, we've got some reports coming up, but I just think the fund position and how much they liquidated in the last 30 days is rather impressive. It got everybody, or some of these people, now to the short side of the market at a time when we're going to come into the big report on Friday. That you set the stage that maybe some of the negativeness is already factored in, and now we'll see if we change. And of course, weather will also come back and play a bigger role on here as the southern tier states are looking to get into the field, and it's a little bit too wet in some of these locations for that to occur. And the weather pattern still looks to be about the same as it has been: warmer and drier in the far southeast, and then cold and wetter in the north and the west. And when the two clash together, that's where
Right.
you can get these heavy rains. And that's what happened over the weekend, and that's what's likely to happen again, or at least forecasted to happen coming up this weekend as well.
You mentioned fund positions, and funds are short in both corn and wheat. So how much short covering do you think we're going to get since we're getting into the end of the month and quarter too, though?
Well, I would think the short covering is probably done and now, or the getting out of long. So now short covering would come back. Maybe you get back to unchanged when we get to the report, something of that nature, maybe a little bit to the plus side. But I look at it on a standby, looking in the bigger scope of things. Typically, these funds will go short 100,000 contracts. That usually start selling they're too short, and when they get to the long side, they like to be long about to a couple hundred contracts a couple 100,000 contracts to the long side. So those are the ones that you got to watch here as it goes through. So I think right now they're right in the middle, and I think you've got room to the upside, and weather, of course, will play along with that report.
Right. And as far as the report right now, we're talking more corn acres, maybe steady soybean acres. What's your thoughts about where you think we'll be?
Well, the trade is at the looking for 91. I'm right in a little bit over 91 million acres. I think if you do the numbers, it still says that corn is the thing to plant. It pays you the best as it goes through. Then followed by the beans, the wheat. Of course, a lot of the winter wheat was already in the ground. But down here, once you start getting to April 15th, May 1st, even for the far south, doesn't mean they're going to have a poor crop, but the yield starts going down on the corn projections for them. So
Okay.
there's going to be farmers that down in the far south that are going to say, May 1st, I'm not going with corn. I'm switching out, or else I'm going to look at prevent planting if it goes through. So those are the things to watch there. The same is true with grain sorghum. Some of them may plant this stuff. It depends. If we don't, this far southwest corner of the southern plains, still on the dry side. I've already heard some of this wheat area has already been released. They can go back into something else, either corn or milo is what they'll do, but they're going to need the moisture. And if
Sure.
not, then it gets back into May 1st. I wouldn't be surprised if they still plant the crop if there's some moisture, and they'll only take it off for forage.
So, was there a little bit of a geopolitical play as well with talk of maybe Putin and nuclear weapons being used? I mean, was that part of the psychology today too, or not?
I don't know that that would be
Okay,
that big of a factor yet. That rhetoric has always kind of been bouncing in there for the last year. So I'm not really convinced that that's a market mover. I think it's something
gotcha.
people like to talk about, but I just don't know that that is. At least I don't make trades because I'm worried about a nuclear situation. I think it's always in the back of my mind that something like that can happen. You have to be prepared for that. But
Gotcha.
regardless, I just don't think you can market according to that. So no, I don't think that's a factor.
So cattle market has had its correction here with the jitters about the banking situation, the macroeconomic climate. Funds have decreased a lot of their length. Do we go back now and start pushing back to the plus side here?
there's I think the funds can still put some more back into the market. The
Okay.
beauty about the cattle market is the fact that the cash is still trading at a premium to the futures. The futures had their sell off. We got rid of some of this link. I believe that's a good positive sign. Second, you're going to come into the time period here once you get past Easter. The demand for beef typically is some of the slowest in the month of March. It only gets better as you get into April. So I firmly believe that you're coming into two things. The funds got out of some of this stuff. The cash is still holding fairly well. Cattle numbers should back off on what's coming to slaughter, both second and third quarter. And then you've got a market here right where the futures market, and we'll see if these funds add on to it. So
Gotcha.
I still like the cattle market, and then coming into better demand. Some of your best demand is actually April into May.
And hogs up again today. Have we bottomed that market, especially with the funds short and going into a hog and pig report?
Well, I certainly hope so. That was quite the washout in 8 trading days. When you wipe out $15, I mean, we're talking some of
Yeah.
the biggest moves to the downside that we've done. But this hog market's done that a couple times already this year. So I do think it's short term overdone. But here's the difference of the hogs versus the cattle. The hogs are the other way around. The futures are holding a massive premium
Premium.
to the cash market. You're at $76 cash hogs right now, and you got June futures hovering up there in that 91, 92, and you've got the summer months up at 96, 97, open to 97 at one time today. So you've got quite a climb. You got to think about cash. Can cash put on $20? The answer, yes, but that is quite a stretch to get going. So if it's going to make a move, it's going to have to start getting going pretty quick. So at least it's got back to where there is some opportunity that you can still lock in some profits, even at $96, $97
Gotcha.
summer hogs. Otherwise, a week ago, everybody was in negative territory for an entire year, and
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
it was pretty brutal, that's for sure. All right, thanks for joining us. Mark Schultz with Northstar Commodity, and that is your markets now.